here to talk about the subject of content and the brave young world. As producers and distributors of traditional television content, constantly looking for the next big hit, we grapple with this question in the age of OTT content. How do we meaningfully engage an audience that is increasingly young? Here. When we say brave young world, who are we really talking about? Every single day in meetings, in elevators, and creative brainstorms, we talk about capturing the youth audience. However, let me ask you, what does this actually mean? We're not talking about a dictionary definition, but rather, and more importantly, how are we characterizing youth? Well, our industry tends to think about and portray youth as an amorphous blob of unreachable, mystical unicorns, millennials, aged somewhere between the age of 16 and 34. That itself is a gap of 18 years. Let that sink in for a second. That's the difference between a Greta Thunberg, I don't know if you guys know her, she's a 15-year-old environmental activist, and Mark Zuckerberg. Two very different Bergs with very different views. So the first step to addressing an audience is obviously connecting with it. And at BBC Studios, we did some work recently that I'm going to share with you today. This complex audience, who have been shaped very differently throughout their formative years, as such, bringing to life and hearing the voices of the Gen Y and the Gen Z. This is the work that we undertook at BBC Studios. And we're going to highlight just a few relevant insights that were surfaced in a global trend evaluation, including the US, UK, China, India, and Australia. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Gen Y and Gen Z are most likely terms that you've heard before. But who are they? Let's start with Gen Y. Gen Y are currently aged between 24 and 37, and across their life, they've witnessed the arrival of the first CD player. In 1991, the World Wide Web was introduced to them. The news informed them of stories that included demonstrations in Tiananmen Square, Exxon Valdez oil spills, and the release of Nelson Mandela. Closer to home, some of us in this room might remember the end of the licensed Raj, the explosion of satellite television, and of course, Babri Masjid. Gen Z. Gen Z's age range is between 9 and 23. They've grown up with media. 9/11, the Iraq invasion, unescapable worldwide events. But in their lifetime, they've seen this on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and the Apple iPhone, of course, was released. So you can see that Gen Y and Gen Z are not quite the homogeneous unicorn millennial group that we so often talk about. But what's more important than the demographics of an audience, no matter their age, maybe I'm a Gen Z, I think of myself as a Gen Z sometimes, is the psychographics. The opportunity lies in stepping into our audience's life and away from considering them just as a demographic. Their behavior, their attitude, and response to global trends is what counts, not necessarily age, gender, ability, race, or sexuality. Rather, we need to start thinking, as content creators, of how we can tap into meaningful trends happening around the world, if not before they happen, at least as they are unfolding. Knowing our audience is the first step in understanding the role content plays in this audience's life. And one element has been trend spotting work that has identified a wealth of useful and relevant themes for younger audiences. I'm going to talk about just 3 of those today. One of the first major trends of particular relevance to Gen Z is inclusive living. The second, my life, my way. And the third, strengthened social justice. All 3 of massive topical importance today. So firstly, let's step into the world of Gen Z, aged between 9 and 23, and bring to life the importance of what they consider inclusive living. In part because they've been online since a very early age, Gen Z have been exposed to more diversity than any generation before, fueling their ability to step away from traditional and sometimes narrow expressions of identity. 91% of 18-year-olds said that technology has helped their generation understand people who are different in terms of race, religion, sexuality. Diversity isn't just a thing for Gen Z. Inclusivity and equality is expected as a given from brands. And media owners also are expected to authentically represent this audience's world. There is an understanding that content can create reality. It shapes people's perceptions of what is real. It has the power to define people's identities and cast them in particular ways. They exhibit what we called post-race and post-gender attitudes and a focus on individuality with a very clear understanding that we're more than just one thing or one aspect of our identity. Let's hear their views from them.
We need diversity, man. You know, we can't live in just a black and white world. We need different experiences. Experiences make everything, so yeah.
I don't know, I feel like you should be open to everything and anything, and that's what, diversity should be.
对我本身来说，多样性是一个从小就灌输在我的脑海里面的东西。
I think it's very important to hear from different people in different cultures to get their perspective.
I think diversity is important in film and TV because media has a big effect on you growing up. It's how you really see your world in a lot of ways. And if you don't see equal representation of people in media, then it makes you think maybe that some types of people might be more prolific than others, which shouldn't be the case.
You see, like on an application like, say, YouTube, we have many different content creators from different parts of the world creating content that anyone can see from anywhere, it's not just us seeing things from us.
I guess it shapes what content I look for, those qualities, in terms of like, is this programming that feels like it's inclusive? Is this programming that feels like it comes from multiple worldviews? And then I guess kind of content that supports my overall, not supports my worldview completely, but like, it's progressive and environmentally sound and all that kind of stuff.
Like in London right now, there's a lot of diversity. It's like we're pushing for it, So it's nice to see when I see, someone of colour in something. I want to watch it. I want to see what they're doing and what part they've gotten,
最近我看了一部电影，就是Mary Queen of Scots， 它是一部讲述英国人历史的电影，可是他就找了一位亚洲人来演，所以我就觉得这是不必要的，就没有必要为了多样性这些东西，你就刻意去强调这些东西。我觉得多样性这些东西是很理所当然的发生，你不需要刻意去强调或者这样子看的人也会比较舒服。
So that brings us to our second insight through this study at BBC Studios. Authentically representing the worlds and the lives of these Gen Y and Gen Z viewers will be the key. The challenge lies in representing a more fluid portrayal of identity within content, without it being perceived as a tick box exercise. As you heard from our young viewer in China, just casting somebody with diversity doesn't make it feel authentic enough for them. Authenticity is absolutely vital here. This audience has developed a keen nose for bullshit and will dismiss it or anyone who tries to force that issue. What this audience wants to hear and see has and is always evolving. So how do we as content creators stay ahead of this evolution? If we want to re-engage younger audiences, we need to reflect their world back to them. That means championing inclusivity in all its forms, both on and off screen. This means not only submersing ourselves in their real lives, but also taking risks with niche stories or viewpoints, exposing them to factual content, for example, and not presuming that they're not evolved enough to accept it. We know any story, as long as it's authentic and speaks about human truth, will resonate with this audience. We all know the last 10 years' biggest hits, but maybe some of the new hits in the years ahead will come from insights like these. We can only authentically represent these new and diverse worlds if we truly understand also that the world is changing. We have a tendency as human shorthand to think of youth as when I was younger, or maybe my kids. As you've already heard, this doesn't work anymore. It lacks the ability to represent the bigger picture. The second theme is My Life, My Way, a huge driver for Gen Y and relevant for how we shape our culture and portray our lives in content. There are approximately 1.5 billion global Gen Y. India alone has 450 million. And this group will be the majority of the global workforce in the not-so-distant future. This is important because they are actively seeking out work cultures that provide work-life balance. For this generation, the priority has moved from my pay to my purpose, seeking an overall lifestyle that delivers some level of meaning within their life, although even within that, one size does not fit all. Recently, Jack Ma, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, the founder of e-commerce giant Alibaba, was widely criticized for his endorsement of the work practice 996, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. This is probably a work ethic that many of us relate to, but younger generations are quite opposed to it. They want more control and better balance. Incredibly, it is predicted that by 2020, half of the US and UK workers will be freelancers. 2020 isn't far away. And India isn't that far behind either. It's important to remember that this group started their careers at the height of a global recession, and most never experienced job security, but their childhoods and education have emphasized collaboration, creativity, and self-expression. This fuels their working priorities. Let's hear directly from this cohort themselves about how content fits within that trend.
If I could shape the perfect work-life balance, everyone would work on their own time and develop their own schedules.
Something which is less fixated on the 9 to 5 and geographic constraints on office.
Being able to be at home and making money at the same time.
A job shouldn't be happy only for after 2 weeks and on a Friday. A job you should wake up Monday morning happy to go to, not just think, hey, I'm going to this and I'm gonna have a good day on Friday payday.
The content I watch fits into my work-life balance because I'm able to watch it anywhere. So for example, if I've got half an hour on a lunch break, boom, phone's up, YouTube, Netflix, whatever, I can hop on, watch a little bit of content.
For me, content fits into my work-life balance in that I primarily watch it to relax. I'll do it after I've come home from work, and it'll be something where I either kind of watch with a friend or I just do it to turn off my brain a little bit.
You know, it's Friday. Friday's movie night at my house, so we're gonna watch a movie. You know what I mean?
If I've had a very busy working period, I'll watch something that's pretty lighthearted to switch off to. Netflix shows, or a David Attenborough documentary or something, or some rom-coms. Other times I want to be a bit more engaged or challenged, so I'll watch dramas or things with a lot of narrative or a story that can really nourish me.
One series I watch to kind of relax and calm down is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Another one is Planet Earth. I do watch shows that are, big dramas and stressful and, very dramatic, but I often turn to comedies like Parks and Rec or stuff like that if I just want to turn something on and have it be funny and then turn it off again.
Pretty much, I guess, social media, TV, movies, entertainment, pretty much just fills in the blanks of my life.
So as you can see, it's quite a wide range of content, but the convenience and portability of it is increasingly important. So third takeaway, as content creators, we must create a creative culture and attract the best. Sounds rather ordinary, but in 5 years' time, with the breadth of appeal that we need to address with our audience, we also need a breadth of talent. As content companies, if we want to tell the right stories, what we need to continue to do to strengthen up our talent pool is different views, not just diversity in age or demographic, but also psychographic. To attract the best, we need to make sure our business culture aligns with their outlook. How does our storytelling capture the move from my pay to my purpose? The 9 to 5 generation is out of date. How do we address that? That takes me to my last theme, which is strengthened social justice. This is of particular importance to Gen Z. Balance here, again, is everything. As we've heard, this generation is diverse and they're connected to media like no other before. While Gen Y was disruptive, Gen Z's adaptive nature leads them to address and fix the problems brought to light by their predecessors. Gen Z grew up during the global 2008 financial crisis at a time of heightened awareness of the effects of climate change and have perceived a lack of action from the generations before. As a result, Gen Z has less faith in traditional institutions and a greater sense of personal responsibility. Therefore, questions like, should I use a plastic bag? Should I recycle my garbage? They also don't feel the need to wait until they're financially independent or of voting age to make change. After all, they have the tools on their phone, and this generation weaned on Harry Potter stories of has been raised on Harry Potter stories of children banding together to fight evil. Gen Z are increasingly acting to express their dissatisfaction about how older generations are tackling serious political and environmental issues. Social purpose is very much of the moment. What is important is that championing noble causes is now very much mainstream. Social media and interconnectedness means causes reach their attention quickly. At the very least, the audience are expected to help get the word out. But be aware of both people and brands engaging in social justice and action due to how it makes them look rather than embracing it with full force. Brands have been jumping on the bandwagon with greenwashing, eco-friendly messages that aren't substantiated. Let's hear about this from our audience and the role content has played to amplify this trend.
I think it's important to have a cause you champion, and I think it can make you more aware of what's going on in the world, maybe your own issues, but also other people's issues, a more sensitive person, and then obviously it's a way to create change as well.
对，经常参与，像在大学我就加入了一个志愿服务的活动，就是经常会去敬老院呀，或者是孤儿院，然后社区打扫，就经常参加这样的活动。
I feel like in this generation, you're kind of expected to speak up more, just because it's like more of the more social norm to do now.
Just good to see change, man. You know, we need to push. We need to be always ever evolving, adapting. You know, there's a lot of negativity in the world as usual.
I feel like with movies, TV shows, they're going more into like different issues that we have today.
The role films and documentaries and stuff take place I guess they inspire me to be more accepting and open, I guess, of things, or be more aware of things. So, for example, if it's a nature documentary about global warming or an issue, I guess it makes me think about what I do in my personal life, or something about gender or sexuality. I guess I think about maybe how those people feel and how I could be more open and, I guess, helping towards them.
就是一个导师的角色，引导我们。
I'm an activist. I work with the Global Recycling Foundation to champion Global Recycling Day.
Do what you can. If you can't, like at least like share it to someone or something. Like at least get the word out.
So be forward thinking. Why is this important? It's not just a fad. This generation is entering our workforce and they feel strongly about the environment in which they are working and living. I fully expect that a strengthened social outlook is very much more mainstream than we have planned for. The challenge is twofold. How do content creators retain our neutrality while representing these champion causes authentically? And secondly, how might we have responded had we been ahead of these trends rather than reacting to them? So to wrap up, now more than ever is the time to embrace the audience. We need to listen to them, talk to them, and make them a part of our daily conversation in a meaningful way. It is only by really listening that we as content creators will be able to tell their stories and that this audience will want to listen to them. It's not a big task. It's just what we do when we're making hits. Thank you very much.